Good evening. It's nothing like trying to herd a lot of women to be quiet, but thank you. Welcome to the Securities Industry Institute's first Women's Leadership presentation this evening. First, I'm Carolyn Tobin. I'm with Deutsche Bank, and I'm also a trustee of the Institute. Before we begin, I'd first like to recognize our sponsor this evening, Broadridge Financial. They are responsible for sponsoring our speaker, Rosina Racioppi. So thank you. And Rosina, to her credit, came in at the last minute due to the fact that the other speaker, I believe, blew out her knee. I almost said she broke her leg, but I won't exaggerate. So anyway, thank you. We're excited about the evening. As you've heard over the past several days, one of the hallmarks of the Institute Week is your ability to meet so many different people. And clearly that's what we're trying to accomplish tonight with respect to having you meet other women leaders within the industry. As a trustee, I've had the privilege to work with some very senior women on the board, very accomplished women within the industry. So we were hoping we could share the same experience for you all tonight with respect to this is a group of leading women, senior women, and hopefully you'll be able to meet people that you otherwise would not have been able to meet. Before we begin, I wanted to give you a couple of stats that we came across. I'm not sure how many people know this, but in 1987, Congress proclaimed March to be Women's Month. Did anyone ever know that? Leave it to Congress. And in 1987, there probably weren't that many women in Congress, so I guess we should give them some credit. So a couple of stats. 51% of the population are women, with 48% in the workforce. 71% of women are working women, compared to only 47% back in 1975. Of the Fortune 500 companies, only 2.5% of women, which almost half the population are working women, but only 2.5% are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And we also have an increase, up from 6% in 2000, we now have 18% of women that are governors. So I thought that was interesting. So clearly more women in the workforce, more women in our organizations, more women in leadership roles. So it's my pleasure now to turn it over to Frida Lewis, who is a Managing Director, Global Relationship Management of Broadridge Financial. So please join me in welcoming Frida Lewis.
Welcome. I have spent over 30 years in the financial services arena, and I can tell you that there has been way too many times that I was the only woman sitting at the table at a meeting, that I was the only woman standing on the podium. I was the only woman sitting in an audience, just like today, with a sea of men around me. So when I look out and see over 150 senior women leaders in front of me today, I truly welcome you in the true sense of the word. So first, a round of applause to you. When I was asked to co-chair the Women's Leadership Forum at Broadridge, I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to help our organization attract, retain, and develop the women. Also, as in many companies, there's an emphasis placed on the value and the leverage of being able to take a woman's viewpoint and ideas in business. And also a desire, believe it or not, for women to thrive in their organizations. The truth of the matter is, as you climb the rungs of that corporate ladder, there are obstacles that you may face. Our speaker today will discuss the evolution of your role as leaders and how you can establish your credibility and some of the rules that you should know. Rosina Racioppi is the president and CEO of Women Unlimited. Rosina spearheads our organization's initiatives to help Fortune 500 companies cultivate the talent they need for ongoing growth and profitability. In the financial sector, she's worked with such firms as Bank of America, JP Morgan, Bank of New York Mellon, PNC, just to name a few. Rosina holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Michigan State and is currently pursuing a PhD right here at the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School Executive Program in Work-Based Learning Leadership. Please join me in welcoming Rosina Racioppi.
Well, hello. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Frida. And I know you've had a long day, so sit back, relax. There will be no tests. It won't be hard. I just want to share with you kind of my thoughts from where I sit in working with Fortune 500 companies to develop their high potential women. Also, as a woman in business, I have a degree in criminal justice, as Frida said, and I had a career in human resources. Some people may think that that didn't fit together well, but it really did serve me well. I'll talk a little bit about how I leveraged my degree in my career. But more importantly, what I want to share with you are the things that I've learned through my own personal experience, as well as in working with companies to develop their high potential women over the past 17 years. What are some of the strategies? What are some of the pitfalls? What are the things that you can do to navigate your own success in your organization? The clicker. I saw an article a few weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal, and it talked about in 2010 that there were 25.4 chief executives that were women, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is beyond the Fortune 500. And that it was slightly up from 2009, where it was 25.6. I asked a friend who worked at Catalyst, how come they always use statistics that are in 0.7, 0.8? And she said, well, if we don't do it to the 10th decimal, we will show no growth over years. And isn't that sad? What's interesting is that as of Tuesday, the White House released a report that, among other things, noted that women have met, and in some cases surpassed, men in educational achievement, but still lag in pay. What's up with that, ladies? So let's talk. What I want to share with you are rules for cultivating your leadership excellence. Notice I said your leadership excellence. You control your destiny. And believe it or not, no one cares more about your job and where you end up than you. No one else should. So what I want to share with you are some thoughts and ideas, some perspectives around things you can do, things that you should be thinking about, approaches maybe you should take as you're evolving your career. And what a great time sitting here attending this program this week, getting lots of thoughts and ideas around your career, to take a pause and say, how am I actually using this knowledge and how am I showing up in my organization? So I invite you to think about it. I also invite you to think about how intentional you are around these rules. How strategic are you in leveraging them to attain the place in your career that you're hoping, that you aspire to. So let's begin. The first rule is you have to know the rules. So let me take you back to your first job. Can you think about that? Can you think about when you showed up for work that first day? And you probably went to the HR department, and they talked about what time you had to be there, the rules, I'm going to say more the framework of how people work. Is that what happened? Right? Are those the only rules that are in an organization? No. There's other rules, right? And how many of you have said these famous words? I don't play that game. I don't play the political game. I used to say that. I was the only one? Did you ever say that? Yeah. Well, there are rules in how every organization works, how we come to consensus, how we come to agreement, how we manage conflicts. And every organization is slightly different. And it's important to understand that. If you don't play the game, if you don't understand the rules, you're standing on the middle of the field, everyone else is playing around you, and you're just blocking everybody's ability to get things done. So how do you think you learn the rules of the game? How does one find out? Well, I have to tell you, when I first started working, I was completely ignorant that there were certain rules of the game. As you can tell from all the vowels in my name, I'm a little Italian, and I grew up in a very large family. So we were expected when we were at a dinner table, and there were a lot of people of varying ages at the table, to show up and participate in the conversation. Didn't matter what the conversation was. It could have been on politics, whatever the topic of the day was, but you had to have an opinion, and you had to be saying it with conviction. Well, imagine when I started working in the chemical industry with a lot of people who didn't look like me. They did not appreciate my, approach to things. My opinions were not as valued as they were when I was sitting around the dinner table. And I thought, well, obviously, you didn't hear me. So let me say it a little louder. It took a long time for me to realize that the comfort of my home and my upbringing was very different than working and navigating in a corporation. And each company was a little bit different. And understanding that I didn't have to be right, but I needed to be heard. And how to get my message across in a way that people could understand it and that they could use the insight that I was sharing in a way that could help the organization. So think about how you and your organization operate. I do believe those people that seem to navigate it effortlessly, get things done, there's a grace in which they get it done. I mean, I think that the people that I know that are strong leaders, it's effortless. They're very powerful, but not in an obvious way. So I share with you this so you can think about how graceful are you in your leadership? Because I do think that it's something that is important and remembered when you're with others. We talk in our programs when we work with women that the first step is really understanding what are the skills and the talents that you bring to an organization. So what are my unique skill sets? What are the things that differentiate me from other people in the organization? And there's a few lenses, excuse me, that you need to think about these through. So I have a set of skills. How does it help me deliver results to the organization? Because I can have a lot of talents and skills, but if they're not of value, and if they're not of value today in the business, then they're just a bunch of skills and talents. So to be able to look at my unique skill set and say, how does it help my company, my organization, my department achieve their goals and objectives? Why are they relevant? And to be looking at it and assessing it on an annual basis to make sure that you are always looking at your skill set through the lens of how do I serve the customers? How do I serve my organization? To make sure that you're maintaining your skill set in a way that is relevant. And more important, not just doing it in a self-reflected way, but also to go out and validate with others, to ask for feedback. How are my skills helping us achieve these goals? What other things should I be focusing on to build on the talent that I'm bringing to the organization so that you always ensure that you are maintaining that relevancy? So let me ask you, if you had to identify the 3 things that you bring to your organization, the unique skills and talents, what would they be? Could you name them? Could you talk about them? And could you be clear about how they're helping your organization be successful? If you can't, find a mentor who can help you flesh that out and identify what they are. The next rule that I want to talk about is don't do it alone. You know, we hear so much about the power of networking and mentoring. And I will tell you that in all the research that I've read and all the things that I've seen, they talk about this one skill for leaders is having networks and strategic alliances is a critical success factor for leaders. Why do you think that is? What's so important about having a network or having mentors? Why does that help you? Helps you get things done? What else? It gives you perspective. You can't do it alone. You know, I was telling the woman earlier, my youngest daughter, I have 2 daughters, 22 and 17, which is why I color my hair on a regular basis. But my youngest daughter knows everything. I don't know why she's going to college and I'm spending all this money, because she knows everything and she has told me that. And I said to her the other day, I'm looking forward to you getting to the point when you realize that you are very smart and intelligent, but you only know what you know. You do not know how I see the world. You do not know how others see the world. And I think that is such a gap for so many of us, especially when we're raised and we're promoted and we're acknowledged as valued talent. We think, wow, we're smart. I know I went through that when I was evolving my career. And you think, I know everything. And then I realize as I've gotten more seasoned, I know less and less. And the more power that I have is by leveraging the knowledge of others. Because what I need, to your point, I need to understand your perspective. I can only see the world through my lens. And I need to understand how others are seeing it in order for me to have the broadest view possible. So, to have mentors and networks that allow you to get that insight is critical. And the reason when studies talk about strategic alliances and mentors as the critical leadership component is because for leaders to be humble enough and say, I don't know everything, but I know I can tap into you and question and learn from you will give me the tapestry of understanding that I need to make the best decision. So how many of you have mentors? Great. More than one? Yes. Wonderful. So we should all have a board of directors, those people that can give us advice, can give us perspective, can give us feedback about what we're doing well and what other things we need to be thinking about. And we need to very periodically review our board of directors and make sure that the composition of it truly is giving us what we need. Because what we needed when we were a manager is different than what we need as a leader. So ensure that the people that are on your board are serving you well. Manage work, lead people. I want you all to think about the last month at work, meetings that you're in, interactions that you've had with people, as we're talking about this, because I do think that we forget things get managed, processes get managed, mechanics of what we do and how we get it done. People are led. There's the difference between mechanics and humanics. And oftentimes we can forget that people need to be inspired. They need to understand your vision. It took me a long time to figure this out. And I remember being at a leadership program with my colleagues, and I had been going through this exercise with this gentleman that I worked with, and he said to me, "You know, Rosina, I really love working with you." And I thought, yeah, of course you do. I get a lot done. And this is where he poked a hole in the balloon and said, "You know, I really like being in the foxhole with you, but I don't know if I would follow you up the hill." And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you do that? Now, I will tell you, that was not the first time I got that feedback, that I didn't listen. But when I got that feedback, I justified my behaviors. I could say, because I got a lot done, I gave all the reasons why they were wrong, and I was right. And this gentleman somehow got my attention. What I realized that I was doing is I just assumed everyone saw the world my way, that my decisions were right and better than theirs. So they should, of course, follow my course of action. I never asked a question, never listened to someone's piece of advice, because I thought, quite arrogantly, that I was right and they were wrong. So I tried, when I went back to work, to start asking people what they thought before I gave them my solution. And you know what happened? I waited for my words to come out of their mouth, and it did not happen. So after about a week of that, I realized, well, maybe I should listen to what people are saying. And here's the secret to leadership. All you have to do is have some really good questions. Ask them, get the people's input, and what I found was I got much better solutions and more motivated people to get things done. I was respecting them. The humanics piece that I thought I was doing, I was not. But by stepping back and having them co-create solutions, much more powerful, honoring their capabilities, honoring their unique talents that they brought, certainly enabled me to be much more successful and shifted how I showed up in my organizations and how I worked with others. So remember, don't confuse. And the one thing every successful leader needs is followers. So as I was trying to drag everybody up the hill, I learned it was much easier to inspire them to follow me, to teach them, to coach them, to be more of a leader that valued what they were bringing to the table, and using everybody's strengths allowed us to get up that hill a lot faster. So think about the meetings that you've been in, the staff that you lead. How would you rate yourself as a leader on that humanic scale? On a 1 being, I was kind of like you, Rosina, in that foxhole, to 5, no, I think I've got that done. Rule number 5. This is an area that I hear so much, especially when I talk with women. The importance of looking like a leader. And really, this is where when we hear, everybody talks about your brand, right? What's your brand? Know what your brand is now. This is where it comes from. It's not really about your clothes and what you wear, though that is an important component of it. It's more around how you're showing up, the confidence in which you portray in the organization your capabilities. So picture, if you will, there's a lot of articles that talk about presence and that you have to have it. Have you read that? You know, she's got it or she doesn't have it. What is this it? And and how do I buy it? Can I use a coupon? There was an article in Business Week a few years ago that talked about why are there not more women in more senior roles in organizations. And they interviewed search firms as to why they were not identifying more women for senior level positions. And every single one of them said, well, they don't have it. So they pushed back and said, well, what is it? Tell us what that is. They said, well, it's presence in a room. When they're in a meeting, speaking up, knowing what it is that you want to share so that you're reinforcing the value that you're bringing to the organization. That you can speak with confidence around issues and topics. That you can manage yourself in a way that displays, I'm very comfortable with what I'm being asked to do, and I can handle it with poise and grace. So do you have it? What happens with women is that we tend to overthink, overmanage, and underrepresent ourselves. So what we hear is that we will try and convey all the knowledge that we know when someone asks us a question. So when they ask us the time, we will explain how the clock has been built when they just want the time. So how are we showing up in our organization? Is it conveying the brand that we want to present in the organization? Listen to your voicemail. Are you clear and strong in what you say? Or is it hesitant? And are there pauses? And I'm so sorry, I can't be here and answer your call. Can you please? That is one of the first impressions that people have, because how many of you are sitting at your desk a lot? So think about what is the presence that you are exhibiting in your organization. Does it support your brand? Or do you need to think about maybe enhancing it? This is my favorite rule, I have to tell you. Think excellence, not perfection. And so I want honesty, ladies. How many of you are perfectionists? I am. So I am not a sports fanatic. I truly am not. But I have an older brother who subjected me to watching baseball, football. You do know that every season bleeds into the next? There's like not a gap. And I grew up in New Jersey, but my brother was a Green Bay Packer fan. And it probably doesn't mean anything to you ladies, but you guys would know. Bart Starr was the quarterback. Vince Lombardi was the coach. And I love Vince Lombardi now that I've gotten older and read about his leadership skills. But there was a story in a magazine about a year ago about the first team that Vince Lombardi took to the Super Bowl. And the player was talking about Vince Lombardi and his speech to the team. And the sentence that he said was just so powerful. He said to them, "Perfection is not attainable. But if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." If we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. I think so often what I see is women looking to get everything done perfectly. How many of you have done things, maybe given 120%, only to have people notice 50% of the work that you did? And how does that make you feel? Happy? Annoyed? Aggravated? And yet, what happens the next time you're asked to do something? You do the same thing over again. I think that's called insanity. No. But why are we doing that? You know, we do know that perfectionism is career limiting. Why? Why would it be wrong to do things perfectly? It costs too much money. What's wrong? How does it limit? Because we're focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on ourselves. I am doing it perfectly because this is to my standard. I know I used to say, this is, the quality of work that I am known for. And we're not looking at what's the customer need? What is the need in this situation? I'm going to deliver that at 100%. I might be able to do more than that, but I'm going to do exactly what's required. Oftentimes, we use ourselves as our compass, and we're overproducing and then getting frustrated that people are not acknowledging that extra work. I used to work for a gentleman who was very focused on delivering exactly what the customer needed. And it truly helped me identify where I would spend my time and where I would not spend time. Because if it was something that the customer needed, and if it was something that the customer valued, guess where I spent my time? On all of those things. Everything else either went away or became something that the customer needed. So how are you? Consider the things that you've done over the past month. Did you spend extra time getting it perfect for your own satisfaction? What shift do you need to be thinking about as you're thinking about how to evolve and stay focused as a leader? What kind of example are you setting for your staff if you're being focused on doing everything perfectly? What does that say to them? So think about, is perfection really worth it? Play well with others. I used to have this poster in my office. Everything I needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. You know, how we play, how we get along. And there's a saying that, you know, is that people will long forget the things that you say. You're not going to remember all the words that I said tonight. But you will forever remember how people make you feel. Have you heard that? I sometimes think we forget about that when we're working in organizations, that we tend to focus more on being right and getting things done than working and creating an environment that allows people to feel valued, to feel that they have a voice in getting things done. So as leaders, as you move more, as you advance in your career, your EQ, your how you get things done, is more important than your IQ. Your skills are important, but how you can get others to talk, how you can collaborate. I talked about the grace in leadership. This is where, how do you disagree with someone without being disagreeable? So to talk about the issue, to talk about the difference of opinion, but not making the other person wrong. And still being able to come with a solution that makes sense for your business. How do you confront without being confrontational? There's a grace to that. And it's important that as you move into leadership roles, that you're able to manage that with effectiveness so that people are kept whole and situations can be resolved and move forward. So how well do you play with others? Here's a great litmus test. If you're walking down the hallway and people are jumping into offices to avoid talking to you, you may need to want to think about how you're showing up with other people. This sounds like such a light area. This sounds like it's something that is so trivial. It is probably the most important thing that you can do as a leader. Am I approachable? Can people come up and talk with me? Even in difficult situations, that is when your reputation as a leader is earned. How well can I handle that? How well can we resolve a situation when things don't go the way that they were planned, come up with a solution and work it through without running people over. A critical skill. How well do you play with others? I think I skipped a, I did. I did not want to make a decision, so I went right past it. Take risks, make decisions. How many of you love taking risks? You're in the financial world. Right. In this industry, maybe not so much, right? It's really interesting that there was a study that the Army did, I want to say about 15 years ago. They wanted to see who made better decisions, the men or the women. What was the quality of the decision that was made? Who do you think makes a better decision, men or women? And we're stacking the deck because there's more women in the room than others. But who makes better decisions, men or women? What? Women do. Women make better decisions. And the quality of the decision that women make is far better than men. Sorry, guys. There was one fatal flaw with the women's decision-making process. And what do you think it was? It takes too long. The Army did the study. Remember, when you're standing in the middle of a battlefield, they don't really want to get consensus. They don't want to explore they need a decision now. The bomb's coming. Why is it that it takes us so long to make decisions? Ladies. We collaborate. What else? We overthink it. We got to get every option. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, heaven forbid. No. Why else? We're too scared to get it wrong. Because we need to be right. Remember my previous comment? Why? What happens if we're wrong? What would happen if I decided something, made a decision, and I was wrong? What would happen? I would lose credibility. What else? I'd be criticized. They won't come to me again. So when you do things at work and you make decisions, are they always successful? No. So sometimes things don't work out the way you wanted them to. And so what do you do when that happens? Do you just walk away and say, well, I was wrong? What do you have to do? Don't you have to fix it? You have to resolve it, right? So what's interesting is that oftentimes, and I know, I think my daughter, who's 22, is finally beginning to learn that you need to have plan B. So this is my ideal solution. This is, if it doesn't meet that, then we'll go to plan B. Sometimes you have a plan C or plan D. To have that flexible thinking so that you can evolve the plan and ensure that whatever the need that the plan was supposed to address gets addressed. Leaders can be flexible in their solutions to ensure that the best solution, there's usually more than one really good solution, and that you can be flexible enough to apply whatever response or resolution is needed for the situation. And if it's not successful, go to plan B. What I often hear women talk about is, then what do I talk about it if I'm not successful? Well, you say, this didn't work out as I planned. But I already have plan B already lined up, and here's what we're going to do to map out that success. No one expects perfection. We apply that to ourselves. But being smart with the risks and being prepared allows you to be able to react to situations that maybe you didn't see in your initial planning, but you can respond to, and you are known more for how you resolve problems that didn't work out perfectly the first time, according to plan, then you are remembered for those things that you execute flawlessly on a daily basis. And I'm sure all of us have stories about that. I asked you earlier how many of you had mentors, and several hands came up. How many of you mentor others? Ooh, even more hands. Oh, now what's that about? So how wonderful that you are reaching out and seeding for the future. It is one of the things that is fundamental in the programs that we run around the country, where we talk about the importance of building your bench, developing others, developing those that are coming up behind us in organizations to help them understand how they can grow and learn from you. I see more and more women that get stuck in roles when they get promoted and there's no one to fill their job. Ever happened to anyone? It's a little frustrating. Very important to always plan your successor. Identify someone either in your department or in another department who can learn from you. Teaching helps you grow as much as helps the other person learn another skill. We have one of the strong components of our program, in all of our programs, is mentoring. And the mentors, the senior executives that mentor, each and every year tell me how much they learn. So by teaching and helping others grow, you will grow as well. You'll learn how to teach others, you'll learn how to mentor, you'll gain from their perspective. So with all those hands, I am thrilled to know that your organizations are in good hands as you're cultivating the next generation. Enjoy the game. Now, I'm sure 2 years ago, if someone said to you, enjoy the game, you would have said, you are crazy. Have you seen what's going on in business? And that was my reaction one day as I was creating the list of people who I was going to be telling weren't going to have a job. We were closing plants, and my boss came in my office, and he said to me, are you having fun today? And I have to tell you, heading up HR, the worst task you have is to tell people, sorry, nothing you did, but you don't have a job. And I looked at him and said, are you crazy? You think I'm having fun? Do you know what I'm doing today? You know what I'm doing today. He said to me, yeah, I know what you're doing today. And so does everybody else. You're walking around. And I was very upset. It was as if I personally failed these people. That's how I took it. He goes, but that's not what you need to be doing as a leader. Now, you don't need to be light and frivolous about it, but you need to be thinking about why you showed up here today. Wow, that was like a douse of cold water on me, because I did realize, how was I showing up in the organization? It's easy to do it when times are great, isn't it? It's always great to have fun at work when we're making profits and life is good and the clients love us and wow, that's easy. Is it easy when times are tough? No, it's not. But more important. And I do think that it's important to show others the passion that you have and the joy that you have in what you do. And I always think, so Frida had said I went to Michigan State. I actually went to Michigan State when Magic Johnson played basketball there. And I love basketball. Is the one sport I really do love. What I loved about Magic Johnson is when he played basketball, he